So Found North creates their single barrels by designing a blend of 3 different whiskeys. First, it is a 50% of a 12-year rye whiskey, then 20% of a 19-year rye whiskey, and finally 30% of a 21-year corn whiskey. So after the blend is created, they then recask the entire blend into 18 different single barrels for further maturation, which allows for 18 different unique single barrels. Definitely excited to get into this one, guys. Without further ado, let's go. All right, so this is 100% Canadian whiskey. The mash bill on this one is 66% rye, 30% corn, 4% malted barley. Comes in at 109.4 proof. Let's go ahead and get into the nose. So the first thing that I get on this is candy corn. It's a very rich candy corn, just like caramel coated. It smells very, very dense. It smells like it's going to be very creamy. It also has this little bit of like a vanilla fudge kind of to it too. So it's like this candy corn, and then nice rich caramel, a little bit of vanilla fudge. I definitely pick up some of that rye spice in there. With it being 66% rye, that is a fair amount of rye in there. So that rye spice is definitely kind of mingling around there. It's not overly dominant. I would definitely say this is more on the sweeter side on the nose. And then further into the glass, I pick up this really nice sweet oak, and then maple syrup is definitely present further into the glass. A little bit further away is when you pick up that candy corn, that caramel, that vanilla. The rye spices are in there actually a little bit further into the glass as well with that oak and maple syrup. But really, I mean, anywhere you put this on your nose, it comes off very, very sweet. And that candy corn is definitely present all throughout the glass. Beautiful nose on this one. Let's get into the palate. Cheers. So the palate definitely lived up to the nose. So on the front of the palate, it comes off very, very sweet. And then as it transitions there to the center of the palate, it starts to get a little bit spicy. So some of those rye spices start to pop up. Get a little bit of white pepper there on the center of the palate. Then the sides of the palate, I do pick up like a little bit of like a lemon peel. And then into the finish, it kind of changes a little bit. It goes into this like burnt, there's some like burnt sugars, almost a little bit of like a burnt like cornbread onto the back. So it's like some sweetness on the front. That rye is there on the middle of the palate, and then into the back, I do pick up a little bit more of that corn than I do the rye. Really nice first sip, and not to mention, it is very, very creamy. It's very viscous, very mouth coating. The legs on the glass are it's super oily. Let's get in the second sip. Yeah, again, so front of the palate, there's definitely that sweetness, that little bit of like a corn sweetness with some caramel, some vanilla kind of mingling in there, and then that rye spice starts to transition on the mid palate there. Some like white pepper, some hints of white pepper, and then that citrus kind of sitting there, a little bit of that lemon sitting there on the sides of the palate, and then into the finish, that peppery finish, it's not there. It kind of stays there on the center of the palate, and then into the back is when it gets like sweet again, like almost like that candy corn, caramel kind of sweetness that kind of flows through. But then there's like the aspects of like that burnt sugar and like a burnt cornbread as it goes down. A little bit of like sweet oak there, kind of mingling in. Yeah, the mid palate and into the finishes is very, very interesting. It's really, really damn good. And the front, it's just crazy how it transitions from like corn sweetness to rye sweetness and then back to corn sweetness. Typically, with some of those spicy ryes, it'll be sweet up front and then kind of spicy, peppery in the mid and then into the finish. But I don't get that spicy, peppery, rye spice finish into the back. It transitions back into that sweetness. This is hella good. Let's get the last sip. Cheers. Yeah, so again, very consistent with the flavors. This isn't something that like continuously evolves. The flavors are there. They let you know they're there. They kind of linger around for a little bit. Again, it's very oily. It's very creamy. Coats the mouth very well. So that again, that sweetness that's up front, that almost candy corn sweetness, that caramel, some vanilla that's present there on the front, and then it goes into that rye spice, and then some white pepper there on the center of the palate, followed along with some citrus there, some lemon on the sides of the palate, which is a kind of it's a nice offset from that rye spice and white pepper there on the sides of the palate, especially there while it coats the mid palate. And then into the back, there's no really like peppery, spicy finish. It transitions into this sweet corn finish that has some burnt sugars, like a burnt cornbread. As it goes down, some sweet oak that's present. I tell you, this is I wish I would have bought this single barrel when it went up. This is outstanding. This is a fantastic pour, and you can tell again, with the 3 different whiskeys they use in this blend, there is a lot of age. There's a lot of age in this glass right here. That 19-year rye whiskey, 12-year rye whiskey, and then a 21-year corn whiskey. But it's crazy because you don't get a lot of that. You don't get a lot of oakiness. It's more of a sweet oak. Like now I get like the slightest hint of like that maple syrup like I got on the nose, like into the finish with those burnt sugars, that burnt cornbread, that little bit of sweet oak, caramel, candy corn that kind of flows through the mid palate and into the finish is stellar. Anyway, just an amazing single barrel here, guys, by Found North. So I want to thank you guys for tuning into this episode of Dusty Dan's Whiskey Reviews. I want to send a big thank you over to Nick and team at Found North for supplying me with this sample to review on the channel. Unfortunately, it came a little bit late. I wasn't able to get a review done prior to the launch of the single barrel, and I highly regret not being able to buy one of those single barrels because I would have bought one of these instantly. This is a fantastic pour. As far as a whiskey score, I'd give this a 7-8. Fantastic drinker. Very viscous, very creamy, velvety on the palate. Again, that candy corn sweetness, a lot of caramel, some vanilla, some maple syrup there on the nose. Onto the palate, it almost mimics that of the nose. That sweetness up front. That candy corn, caramel, vanilla, rye spices, and white pepper there on the mid palate with some citrus, and then into the back is just it's those burnt sugars, the cornbread, the slightest hint of maple syrup that follows through with some sweet oak. Just an outstanding single barrel here, guys, by Found North. So if you guys are looking for more reviews like this, make sure you hit that subscribe button, bell notification to be alerted of any upcoming reviews or live streams. You also find me on Instagram at Dusty Dan's Whiskey Reviews. Until next time, guys, stay dusty.